topic in Unit 5 is writing equations in three forms. So we're going to talk about writing in point-slope form, slope-intercept form, and standard form. And we'll start with the one that's just review. Remember, when writing an equation of a line given a graph, it's easiest to write the equation in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, where m is our slope and b is our y-intercept. But what if the y-intercept is not visible on the graph, or the y-intercept is not an integer, if it's a fraction or a decimal? When this happens, find the slope at any other point on the line. From here, use what's called point-slope form. It's right here in this box. Point-slope form. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. And we'll talk about that equation a little bit more in an example coming up. Once an equation is written in slope-intercept form, it can be rewritten in standard form, which is ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are integers, so they're not fractions or decimals, and a is not negative. So the first number, a, cannot be negative. Alright, so let's look at some examples here. Given a point and a slope, write an equation of the line that has a slope of 3 and goes to the point 1, negative 2. Keep in mind, slope is represented by, what letter do we use? M. And the given point is represented by x1, comma, y1. So if I go back up and read this sentence again, write an equation of a line that has a slope of 3. So right there is my M. And goes to the point 1, negative 2. So here's x1, y1. And now we're just going to fill in the equation. Plug in your given information. It always starts with y. Y minus. Okay, that first letter is just y. And in this case, my y1 is negative 2. Then I look at my m. So equals m, which is 3, we just said. And x1 is 1. So this y is always constant, and this x is always constant, meaning you're always going to write them as x and y. The numbers you fill in are where we filled in those numbers. Alright, so now we're going to simplify this. Minus a negative, y minus negative 2 becomes y plus 2 equals 3 parentheses x minus 1. There's nothing else I can do with that. And once you're done with this step, you are done writing in point-slope form. Don't distribute. We are done writing in point-slope form. So this is it. Don't distribute. You're not solving for y. That's it. Now, B says to solve for y and put it in slope-intercept form. So we're going to manipulate this equation a little bit and solve for y. So in order to do that, the first thing we do is distribute. So I'm going to distribute this. Again, my point-slope form is done. Right there is where my point-slope form is. But now to get from point-slope form to slope-intercept form, I distribute that 3, which leaves me with y plus 2 equals 3x minus 3. Again, we need to get y by itself, so now I move the constant. So I need to get y by itself, so I subtract 2 from both sides. Make sure that you're subtracting the constant from the constant. So in this case, negative 3 minus 2, which leaves me with y equals 3x minus 5. And that should look familiar to us. This is our slope-intercept form. And we are done with that. And then letter C says write that equation in standard form. So in order to get it into standard form, I need to move x and y onto the same side. So I'm going to move the x term. going to subtract 3x from both sides and rewrite it so my x term is in front. So I have negative 3x, that y is positive, so plus y equals negative 5. If you think back to what we talked about, though, about standard form, there's two important things we need to remember. A, B, and C are integers, and A cannot be negative. So if I look at this, what I have so far, I don't have any fractions or decimals, but this number right here is negative, negative 3, and I can't have that. It has to be a positive number. So in order to undo that, I need to multiply everything by negative 1. When I do that, I just flip the sign of everything. And here is that equation in standard form. If you have any questions about what I did manipulating this equation, starting with point-slope form, moving to slope-intercept form, and then moving to standard form, please go back and either re-watch this section before moving on, or else raise your hand and ask questions before you get to your you-dos. All right. Otherwise, you're going to keep moving on. How can you write the equation of a line only given 2 points? Well, we know from given 2 points, the first thing we need to do is find the slope, given the 2 points. Then we use the point slope form. Sorry, I ran out of room here. To write the equation of a line, keep in mind you can choose either point. All right, so let's look at this first one. Write an equation of a line that goes through the points 6, 1, and 9, 3. So before I start, I'm going to label these x1, y1, x2, y2, because I know my formula is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to plug these numbers in and figure out the slope. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 3 minus 1 is 2. 9 minus 6 is 3. So in this case, m equals 2/3. All right, now it says plug in your information to point slope form. Remember, y and x are always constant, which is why they're already there for us. But you need to know that you need to write these for your formula, okay? All right, so I'm going to use this point here, 6, 1. So y minus y1, y1 is 1. The next blank is our slope, which we just found to be 2/3. 2/3 x minus x1. Again, x1 in this case is 6. So I'm just going to rewrite this. Y minus 1 equals 2/3 parentheses x minus 6. And we are done. We are done. This is point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. So don't go any further. All right? If it asks for point slope, this is what they want. All right. So on our next page, it says solve for y to put it in slope-intercept form. So this is exactly what we had on our front page. It's just typed for us. Y minus 1 equals 2/3 parentheses x minus 6. So again, the first thing we need to do is distribute. I'm going to distribute this, which leaves me with y minus 1 equals 2/3 x minus 2/3 times negative 6 is 4. And then I need to move the constant. So I need to get y by itself. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Again, make sure that you're adding to the correct number. We're not adding 1 to 2/3 x. We're adding negative 4 plus 1, which gives me, when these cancel out, y equals 2/3 x minus 3. And this is my slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b, which is the form it's in, slope-intercept form. D asks us to write the equation in standard form. So in order to do that, remember I need to get x and y on the same side. But before we do that, I need to get rid of that fraction. So I'm going to rewrite this problem down here. Y equals 2/3 x minus 3. Remember, we can't have fractions or decimals. So in order to get rid of that fraction, what do we need to multiply this whole equation by to get rid of that denominator? I need to multiply everything by 3. So we always look at the denominator of our fraction to get rid of those fractions and multiply by that denominator. So if I distribute to all my terms, I get 3y equals 3 times 2/3 is 2x, and 3 times -3 is -9. So now I've gotten rid of that fraction. The next thing I need to do is move the x term. So I need to get x and y on the same side. So I'm going to subtract 2x. Again, I want that x term to be in front. So -2x, this 3y is positive, so plus 3y equals, what's all that's over there? -9. And then remember that leading number, a, cannot be negative, so I need to multiply by -1. So I'm going to take this whole group here, multiply by -1 and distribute it, which leaves me with 2x minus 3y equals 9. And this is my standard form. So again, each time, if you've noticed, we've started with point slope, moved to slope intercept, and then moved to standard form. So if you have questions about A, B, C, or D on this section, please make sure you pause your video and rewatch, or else ask questions before moving on. Before you get to your you-dos, we need to add some things to our formula sheet. So we have 2 new equations we learned. We talked about point slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. And then we also learned standard form, which is ax plus by equals c, no fractions or decimals, and then a can't be negative. So here's our standard form. We're also going to go back to what we talked about a few classes ago and just add in graphing inequality so that you have that on your formula sheet as well. So if I have less than or equal to or less than, I shade below. If I have greater than or equal to, I shade above. If I have less than or greater than, I have a dashed line. And if I have less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, I have a solid line. So just make sure that all of these get added onto your formula sheet, please. Because you can go ahead and use those on your formula quiz at the end of this unit. If you don't have any questions, you can go back and work on your you-dos. Again, if you're stuck, please make sure you go back and re-watch the section you're stuck on and see if you can answer your own question.